Hello, everybody. Mr. Bandit here. Yes, it is I. I have a face. I have a voice. Yes. Some of you may or may not know that this week marks the 110th anniversary since the RMS Titanic's sinking. Now, some of you who know me in real life know that other than things like Game Boys games, I also like the Titanic and the Olympic and all that kind of stuff. So I thought what would be a good idea for to celebrate this momentous occasion, 110 years. I thought it would be a good idea to do a list of my top 10 favourite ocean liners. So I know what some of you may be thinking. First of all, why the Campania? Second of all, what even is the Campania? Well, first of all, the Campania is a ship built for the Cunard Line back in 1892. That sunk in 1918 after a collision with the HMS Glorious. And the reason why I chose her is because as soon as you get a look at her interiors, she looks way ahead of her time, and I think she was way better than most White Star ships of that era. She had a very short career, though, unfortunately, due to the collision with the HMS Glorious. And she would have been scrapped, though, anyway. It wasn't for a little event known as World War I, which saw her get pulled into duties as an armed merchant cruiser until she sunk in 1918. So, yeah, it's a shame. But nonetheless, she was still a stunning ship with a stunning exterior and a stunning interior. But alas, she had a very short life as she quite quickly became outdated. But more details on this ship in one of my future videos where I plan to make her full history of this ship. Anyways, moving on to the next ship. There is another one of those ships where you'll go, what? This is the MV Britannic, not to be confused with the HMHS Britannic, and the story behind this ship is back during the 1930s, White Star was going to make a ship called MV Oceanic, which would have been the biggest ship in the world at the time, but due to financial issues, they ended up scrapping it and turning her into two ships, the MV Georgic and the MV Britannic. Now, personally, I prefer the Britannic, mainly due to the fact that I like the mix of tradition and modernity. And this is mostly present with her Art Deco interior design inside of her hull, obviously. Though another reason, and the main reason why I like the MV Britannic, is because she was the very last White Star liner in service until, apart from the Oceanic. And she was scrapped back in the 1960s. And when she was scrapped, there was a lot of fanfare. But yeah, also I like her very sleek aesthetic, and I think what really makes me prefer her over the Georgic is I don't like the Georgic's rounded infrastructure. I do not like it. Apart from that, yeah, it's a very close match. But I ultimately went with the MV Britannic due to her superstructure. Moving on to the next ship. One of the more famous ships on the list, this is the Queen Elizabeth II, one of the last purpose-built ocean liners. I don't think I need to give her much of an introduction. She was built back in 1969 for the Cunard Line to replace the RMS Queen Elizabeth and the RMS Queen Mary. And quite frankly, what I like about the ship is just her outside. I can't find many pictures of her interior, but I really like her exterior with the whole mix of traditional and modern looks with the whole superstructure, and especially her bridge. I like her bridge and her entrance onto the passenger decks. I like it, and her iconic red funnel, which, fun fact, it was actually a different look originally, but yeah, quite frankly, I think she's earned her place on this list. She especially looks good from her side, but quite frankly, the main thing I like about this ship is her history and her outer looks. as she is a very nice and beloved ship. Anyways, moving on to the next ship. Here is another iconic ship on this list with her little yellow funnel, the lovingly nicknamed little sister of the Titanic, SS Nomadic, also known as the tender vessel Nomadic. Was built in 1911 to tender the Olympic class liners Titanic, Olympic and Britannic. She went on to live a very long career, serving for many years for the Cunard White Star Line, Cunard Line, and so on and so forth. At some point she was converted into a restaurant, and then at some point she was, the owners of her went bankrupt, and she was put up for sale. In that time she was ransacked. And at some point in the 2000s, the people who own the Titanic Museum bought her and restored her back to her former glory, where now she is a museum ship in the Titanic Museum in Belfast, Northern Ireland. I recommend to go and visit her. But she is my favourite, well, one of my favourite ships of all time. She's more of a tender, due to her history and look at her beautiful interiors. But without further ado, let's move on to the next ship. A ship that, well, not the average fan knows about, but a pretty good ship nonetheless, is the RMS Mauretania, sister ship to the RMS Lusitania. Now, some of you may be wondering, why didn't I go for her more famous and popular sister? Simply put, the Mauretania you have more photos of, and she looks, though she barely looks different compared to the Lusitania, in my opinion, I do think the Mauretania looks a bit better than the Lusitania. And she's had a longer, more eventful career than her sister ship, the Lusitania. She served as a hospital ship in World War One. Then after World War One, she returned to cruising, where she had beaten herself and took the blue rubber band back and given it back to herself. And she had the rubber band for over 20 years, which is pretty impressive. But that's not even getting me started on her lavishly decorated interior, which I believe is Louis XVI style, though correct me if I'm wrong in the comment section, and her wonderful / less vibrations compared to the Lusitania. She was a lot more comfortable, and she's an all-around better ship than the Lusitania in my opinion. It was a shame though that we had to scrap her in the 1930s to make way for the new ship, the RMS Queen Mary, which will then bring us on to number 5. The RMS Queen Mary. I don't think I need to say much about this one. But I should say it's more with her outward looks and nostalgia for the past, as recent events obviously involved her having to get repaired, and quite frankly it's quite interesting to keep an eye on her story and give us more of a reason to keep her around. But there are a few other reasons I'd like to get into as well. Then the fact that the Queen Mary has had a very long and nice career. Well, I say very long, it was cut short by aviation, but hey ho. She's had a very interesting career, gaining the name the Grey Lady after cutting a ship in two, and also she got the name Grey Lady as she was painted grey during World War II to do her troop ship duties. And then after she came out of World War II, despite being on one of the Nazis' probably top sink lists, she then went on to continue her career, and she even survived getting scrapped and was converted into a hotel, and she now sits at Long Beach, California, and all this might not have even happened if it wasn't for one merger. That's right, if it wasn't for the Cunard White Star merger, she probably wouldn't exist. And even then, she probably might have still not been a given if it wasn't for the fact that many people contended to put up with her and continue on with construction. Alas, she has survived quite a bit, and quite frankly, you could say that this is just the beginning this is the end of just a chapter and the beginning of a new era. Now if we move on to her interiors, where her dining room is so big, apparently you can fit Cunard Line's first ship, the Britannia, inside and still have enough room for the whole of Christopher Columbus's fleet to fit in just the dining room. So, if that doesn't scream, I'm a big ship, and I'm very good looking, I don't know what does. Now, moving on to number 4. Now, this ship is definitely just for the history, as I don't know if any of you know this, but when you're converted into a hospital ship, you seem to have most of your interiors stripped. Oh dear. But yeah, the HMHS Britannic. Brilliant ship, and the sister ship of the Titanic. Alas, her grades were below sea level. Ow! What's that for? But she is still in a lot better condition than the RMS Titanic's wreck is, and quite frankly, even with her grand staircase stripped down to the bare minimum, I think she still looks quite nice on the inside. And let's be real here, the main reason why I put her on here is because I really like that one photo of her and the Olympic next to each other. I mean, look at that. How does that not look cool? Anyways, that will now bring me on to number 3. Now, the reason why I've put the RMS Olympic above the Titanic and the Britannic, despite the fact that I've known of the Titanic longer than I have of both of them, and the fact that I really like the Britannic, well, I have more of a reason with the Olympic. Well, let's get into them. Well, number 1, there isn't that many pictures of the HMHS Britannic. In fact, I had to reuse one of them earlier. Number 2, most of the pictures of the Titanic are actually of the Olympic, due to the fact that the two ships are very similar, and the fact that Titanic had a little love tap with an iceberg only during one voyage. Oof. And also, the RMS Olympic is a ship you'd want to be on, as this thing had a habit of crashing into other ships. Jeez, what a bully. In fact, I'm only going to name 2. The HMS Hawk, right into the side of her stern in her early career, and the Nantucket lightship, and that was the last collision she had. And both of those, she came out pretty much fine. Unfortunately, the other ship, Somehow, she was that lucky as well that when a torpedo went straight into her bow, it didn't detonate, and they actually sunk the U-boat. So, good job. Anyways, she was a fine ocean liner, had a very long and eventful career. A very, very long and eventful career. It's a shame she was scrapped. In fact, the fun fact of the day is that the RMS Olympic actually communicated with the Titanic while the Titanic was sinking, and also communicated with the Carpathia, and the captain of the Olympic offered to get all the survivors off of the Carpathia, but this obviously didn't happen, as Captain Rostron thought that seeing a ship almost the exact same as the Titanic would give everybody a bit of a heart attack, and can you blame them? She had a gorgeous grand staircase, gorgeous interior. Oh, I love the wood. No, seriously, I really love the wood. If I ever win the lottery one day, I'm having my house turned into the grand staircase. There's no stopping me. Not even the fact that I rent. But no, seriously, nothing will stop me. And I really, really like the angles from the staircase. The rooms within her were spacious and beautiful. And when I say beautiful, I mean very beautiful. Look how top-notch this image is. And she has many improvements over the Titanic, and was even lovingly referred to as the Old Reliable. Anyways, to the next ship. Oh-ho! The second Mauretania, and the second Mauretania on this list. She was completed in May 1939, only a few months before World War II, and she served in World War II and survived. And in my opinion, she is one of the most beautifulest ocean liners inside and out going around, or that did go around until she was scrapped later on in her life. Her bow mixes in elements I liked from the Queen Mary and the Queen Elizabeth. I like her two funnels. That doesn't even get me started. Don't even get me started on her livery, especially her cruise livery. And her interiors are spacious, beautiful, and were built only for the finest people to sit in. Or I should imagine so, as they were that beautiful. I would just like to take a moment to say it's surprising on how unpopular this ship is when the original Mauretania was so popular, and I'm pretty sure this might have had a longer career than the original Mauretania. Also one of the first ships built after the Cunard-White Star merger, and she was later on scrapped in the 1960s. I wouldn't be surprised if she was scrapped around about the same time as the MV Britannic. Jeez, what is it with ships that are ship predecessors / successors even to other ships and being scrapped in the 60s? I don't know. Ah yes, the biggest tragedy of World War One. The RMS Oceanic, built in 1899, and she was the very last ship built for Ismay, the first Ismay of White Star. Very, very sad, and I'm pretty sure this is the first a ship built by / designed by Thomas Andrews. She was originally meant to have a sister ship called the Olympic, not to be mistaken with the Olympic from earlier, but these plans were, however, scrapped after the falling health of the, at the time, White Star's president. Shame. And these plans were scrapped and Oceanic became a ship of her own. But she was apparently Officer Lighthauler's favourite ship, and if those rumours are true, I can see why, as I myself really love this ship. She's my favourite ocean liner and my favourite ship of all time, and my reasons are her stunning interiors, which I believe even today could pass for beautiful. Just look at the picture on screen. If that is not beautiful, then I don't know the definition. Fortunately, though, in World War I, she grounded and sunk, and she was later scrapped bit by bit by daring salvagers. And this was all caused by one bit of miscalculation. What a shame. And on that bombshell, I should say that's it for this video. Now, keep in mind that this list is very subjective. You might not agree with my opinions on these ships. You might agree with opinions on those ships. Leave your thoughts in the comments below. And, yeah. I'll see you soon. Please subscribe and enjoy the very messed up attempt I made at the intro earlier. Yes. Some of you may or may not know that this week marks the 110th anniversary since the RMS Titanic's sinking. And some of you who know me in real life may know that other than things like games, and I've held that the wrong way around,